Welcome back, guys. Hope you are doing great. And today in this session, I'm going to show you how to use the Firebase authentication like the Gmail and the GitHub authentication with the proper backend token validation system. And I'm going to show you completely build this from the ground. Okay, so if you click this sign in, so that will take this pop-up window and you can use your Gmail to log in with it, and that will be logged in, and that will be redirected to the home screen. And even if you refresh the home screen, that will be or it will check there is any authentication changes or not by using the on auth state changed. That using that method, it will check is there any changes or not, if and it will try to send that token to the backend and it will validate it, and it will returns back the data, and that will be stored in our context provider, and it will be shared throughout our child component so that I can access this throughout the child component. This is the GitHub, like using the Firebase Google sign-in. You can see it's showing google.com, and if I log it out, and it will be returned back to the home login screen. And if I click login again by using GitHub, that will open this time GitHub profile, and that will actually let me sign out with my GitHub. So GitHub, because it's by default it is logged in with my GitHub profile, so let me sign it out, and let me sign it out from here. This time if I click sign in, and that will ask me to sign in with my GitHub profile. Click sign in, and if you are authorizing it for first time, it will ask you to use the authorize. If you enable the authorize it, and you can see it using the GitHub login method right now. So both are using the token validation, and it's validated by using our backend API over here. We do have our server, and with our custom backend API like this, we do have our custom server API, and we are validating our token just by using this admin auth template and everything. So I'm just going to show you how to build and validate the token provided by your GitHub and the Google, and use how to store the data in your context provider, and we are going to build this together completely from the ground. I hope you guys are excited, so I don't want to waste your time, so let's jump into the video straight away. Okay then, so let's create a new folder in our desktop. So right click new folder, and I'm going to name that folder as Firebase Auth, and we are going to discuss about the both Gmail Google authentication and as well as the GitHub authentication. Okay, so let's open up this folder in the terminal, new terminal, and open it in the Visual Studio Code space dot. All right, so here we go, and let me make it bigger. Okay, so open up your terminal. So we need to create a React project first. So let's start creating it. So yarn, I'm using yarn package. If you're using npm, so just write npx create. I'm using yarn, so yarn create React app, and I'm going to create that React app in this current directory, so /. So that will create the React application. So in the meanwhile, let's go and create a new Firebase project. So open up the browser and go to firebase.google.com. so that will take you to the Firebase console. So click here, go to console. So click go to console. All right, so let's create a new project. So click here, and I'm just going to name it as Firebase Auth. All right, so Firebase Auth, and click continue, and I'm going to disable the Google Analytics and create the project. Unless if you're creating a real-time project, so if you want the Google Analytics, so that will gives you the insights, how many views, how many viewers, how many users are coming active in your website. So that will gives all the insights which is necessary for your websites. Okay, but you need to pay for it. All right, so now just click continue, and here we go. So let's go ahead and create an app. So first what we need to do is we need to add an app for that. So click here, project settings. All right, so when you go here, you can find iOS, Android, and web app. So click the web app, because we need a web app to integrate our Firebase project with our React project. So click here, and I'm going to use the same name, Firebase Auth, and I'm not going to host it yet, so let's worry about it later. So click register app. So let it okay then. So to use the Firebase in your project in your machine, you need to install this Firebase. You need to install this the Firebase to use the Firebase in our project. We need to install this npm install Firebase. All right, and this is the configuration file. So click continue to console, and here we go. So we do have all the configuration files and everything necessary for our project. And of course we are going to use the Google authentication and as well as the GitHub authentication. I'll show you how to enable the Google authentication first. So to do that, go to build and expand the authentication tab. All right, so click get started. Okay, so here we are going to use the Google first. So click the Google authentication provider and enable it. All right, and it will ask you your Gmail address. So select your Gmail and click save. So that will enable the Google authentication for this particular auth client. It will be enabled for this, and the Google authentication is enabled. Now I need to enable the GitHub provider also. So click the GitHub provider. All right, so I need to enable it, and it will ask you client ID and the client secret. So let's open up the new tab and go to the github.com, right? So right now I'm in my GitHub profile, so you can see it here. All right, so this is my GitHub profile, and here you need to navigate to the settings. So click the settings, and if you scroll down, you can find the developer settings over here. So click the developer settings, and initially for you need to use this OAuth apps. You need to use this OAuth apps. So for you it might be empty, so you need to click this option, new OAuth app. So currently I'm using this GitHub sign-in for my latest version of my website. I'm currently building it, and here you can see this. If you click that, and you need to give an application name, so I'm just going to say Firebase auth, and home URL, you can give your the domain URL, which is going to be, so this is going to be localhost only. So what we can do is I'll just copy this localhost URL from here and paste it here, localhost. And description, you can give the description, and the callback URL, it's going to be from here. This is the callback URL, so we need to copy this and you need to paste it here, and then click register application. So now your application is ready, and if you scroll down, you can find your where is the here it is. This is the client ID. So this is the client ID you need to copy, and you need to provide it over here, and as well as you need to go here and generate a new secret. Give your password, type your password, then you have your secret key over here, copy it, and you can paste it over here. All right, so then all you have to do, just click the save. So now your GitHub authentication, that OAuth for your GitHub, it's connected with your Firebase project. And we need to do one more thing, because we are using the Google authentication and as well as the GitHub, because some user might have the same email ID for both Gmail and as well as the GitHub, just like the user like me, because I do have the same email address for every single authentication, like Google or GitHub. I'm using the same. That means I do have a common email for everything. So in that situation, what you need to do is either you need to handle it, because Firebase documentation provides you to handle if the email address is already inside your user portal, you need to handle it in a different way. Otherwise, for each and every providers, you can maintain a separate user even if it's the same email ID. In this case, I'm just to make it simple, I'm just changing the settings to separate. I'm just going to configure it. Even though if the email address is same, we are going to maintain two different providers. Okay, same email address for two different providers. So click the settings, and then here, where is that option? Somewhere in the sign-in methods, usage. Oh god, I forgot the option. Settings, user actions, not this one. Authorized domains. Where I user account linking, here, sorry, this is the one, user account linking, and here you can see link account that use the same email, because by default every Firebase project uses, it will try to protect the user to create multiple account for the same email. But if it is a different provider, we can create it. So I'm just going to create a multiple accounts for each identity provider. Okay, that means even if it is the same email address for Gmail or GitHub, no issues, create it separately. So I'm just going to save the changes. All right, so now all the settings which is necessary for our Firebase project is done. Now let's go ahead and open our Visual Studio Code, and here we go, our project is also done. Okay, so now we need to add a package, that's the Firebase package. So yarn add Firebase, and as well as I'm going to add the Tailwind CSS also, because I'm familiarized. Most of the project we are using Tailwind only, so I'm going to install the Tailwind CSS also. To Tailwind CSS, open it and click get started, and where is it, installation, and here we go. So copy this Tailwind CSS, copy it, and I'm just going to add it, paste it here. So press enter. So that will install both Firebase and as well as the Tailwind CSS. And once the Tailwind CSS package is successfully installed, all we have to do is to configure these two of them inside in the Tailwind configuration. So we need to run this to initialize the Tailwind configuration JS, and we need to add this line, and we need to add it in our index.css. Okay, so basically, if you, I think this is showing the configuration for a plain HTML project. What we can do is Tailwind CSS for React, search for React project, then you can find this one, install Tailwind CSS with React app. So here, let's say, there we go, we already created the project. And oops, I need to install these two also, forgot to install them. Yarn add. All right, so initially the one which I copied, that's the plain HTML project, it will not work, but we need to install this post CSS and auto prefixer also. And let me copy this from here, and we are going to initialize our Tailwind, paste it, enter. So now that will generate the post config.js and as well as the Tailwind config.js, the place where we are going to configure our entire customized CSS and everything, custom CSS styles and everything. All right, so then what we need to do is we need to add this line. So click here inside the source, copy it and paste it inside your content. All right, save the changes, and let's go back here, and I need to copy this thing, copy it, and I need to paste it inside my index.css. All right, so what I can do is basically I don't need this app, delete it, and I don't need this logo, delete it, and this also I don't need it, delete it, setup test, delete it. Okay, all I need is just index.js, app.js, and all those things. Let's go here, and I don't need this report, delete this one, and this is not necessary, delete this one. All right, save the changes, and yeah, here we go. And now here, what else we need to do? Yeah, copy this and open your index.css and paste this line at the top. We need to paste this line at the top, paste it here, and save the changes. All right, so then go back here, and now if you run your application, and you can use this Tailwind CSS utility classes inside your app.js. So successfully we configured the Tailwind CSS in our React app. And I need one more package, that is the yarn add React router DOM. So we need to install that React router DOM, okay, because that is for the navigation purpose, to move from one screen to another. We are installing the React router DOM. So now I installed all the necessary packages. So let's go back here, and let me delete all this app. Inside this app I don't need anything. Let me delete everything. App, and this, for this I don't need this app.css also. Let me delete that app.css too. Delete it. And I don't need this logo. Let me delete basically everything and RAFC, and here we go. Now I do have my app, and I'm just going to say class text LG. Basically that means a large text, and text blue. We are going to use the blue color. Let's see whether it is working fine or not. And yarn start. So that will start our React app. Whatever, it's loaded, and it's not loading over. Oh, okay, I'm sorry, it's loading in my another screen. So let me bring it here. Okay, local host 300, and here we go. We do have this app now. All right, so let me bring it to the same screen now. Bring it here. We'll keep it in the same screen itself. Put it in the right side and put it in the left side. Let me reduce it. All right, then let me reduce this one too. Fine. So now what I need to do is I need to create a login screen, and if the user is successfully logged in, we just going to navigate that user to our what we can say, we have to navigate the user to the home screen. To do that, what I need to do is, all I need to do is to configure the main router first. So let's go ahead and configure that main router. Just a minute. And where it is, come on. All right, so to do that, first of all, what we need to do is we need to install our, import our main router, where it is, index.js. Here we go. And here I'm just going to say import browser router as router. Okay, so then I need to wrap this app into this router. Save the changes. Now this is inside the router, and let's go to the app. Okay, anything which is comes to the app, that is the main thing. So let me close this. I'm just going to say width, what width should always be screen width, and minimum height, that is going to be screen. All right, and then that's fine. I think so, that is fine, and everything should be in the center. So flex item center and justify the items in the center. All right, so inside here we are going to bring that two different route. So to do that, first I need to import the route. So routes, not this one, routes, yeah, routes. Inside this routes we are going to bring the route. So if the path is equals to slash star, that means that needs to be open the home container. Okay, so far we don't have nothing. And if that path is equals to login slash login, then we need to open the login container. So let's go ahead and create the containers first. So right click, new folder, and I'm just going to say container. Inside this I'm just going to create two different files, home.jsx RAFC and login.jsx RAFC, and I'm going to create an index file. So what's the reason I'm just using the index file, this index.jsx js. I'll show you. So let's say let's save these changes. If I'm using the home container over here, home slash, and if you look at this, it's importing the home as a separate import statement, like container slash home. Think about it, if you're having a multiple components or multiple containers inside the container for like 10 to 15, so it will bring a 10 to 15 import statement over here. So we don't want to do that. So that's the reason I just created an index file, index.js file over there, and click it, and I'm going to export it from here. Export default as home from /home. Okay, save the changes and do the same thing for your login also, as login from /login. Save the changes. Now if I go here and if I import this statement, look at that, it's coming from the container. And if I am importing the login container, that will be added in the same import statement. So that's the reason we do have the index.js over there. So save the changes, and now by default we are inside the home, and if I want to navigate to login, so that will takes me to the login screen. Okay, so let's go ahead and create the login screen first. So open here, and this I'm just going to say class, use the width, full width, and height full, and then flex everything in the center, item center, and justify in the center. All right, so then instead of this text, what I'm going to do is, instead of this text, I'm going to create a division, and that division is going to be class width. We can say that means in a small screen, it should take the full width, but once the small screen is finished, it should take the width as what we can do is we can say 384 pixels. Okay, with 384 pixels, and border gray 200 or 200, and padding I'm just going to give 4, and I'm going to say rounded empty, so that means you can see this option. Okay, so still this is a small screen, so we can add some padding here also, padding 4, so that you can see this pretty much clear over here. All right, so then inside here I need to bring that sign in with Google and sign in with GitHub, those two options, and I'm just going to say flex column, item center, justify it in center, and the gap between each and every items, it's going to be 4. Save the changes. All right, so let me break this view word wrap where it is word wrap, so that you can see everything in the same screen. Fine. And inside here, to bring that sign in with Google and sign in with GitHub, we need an icon. So of course we need a package, so I'm going to use the React icon. So yarn add React icons, so this will add the React icons which is necessary for us. And if you go here, where it is, oh, here it is. Let me bring this to that screen. Okay, so here if you search for React icons, the very first link, and that will gives you the installation guide and everything and how to use them. So here I'm just going to search for Google. If you search for Google, you can find this FC Google icon. This is the one we are going to use it. So click it, that will be copied, the name will be copied, and now the icons is imported. And here I'm going to create a division, and that division is going to be, what happened, minimize it, so class name, and that is going to be here. I'm just going to say use the complete width, and px it's going to be 6, py it's going to be 3, and bg it's going to be white, and shadow, nothing, you're not going to use the shadow, and hover I'm just going to say shadow nd. All right, whenever I'm hovering it, it should have some shadow. Save the changes. Still it doesn't, you can't see anything. And here inside instead of bg white, we can say gray 100. Save the changes. Now you might able to see that option over here. Now what I can do is, instead of This gray color, I'll keep it as white itself. I'll give a gray color for this background. Okay, now I'll give a white color for this PG white. Now inside that division will looks in a white color, and the background, the entire thing will be in a gray color. That looks much better. And then I'm going to say rounded MD, and everything inside should be flux item center and justify in the center. And the first option is we are going to display, that is the oops, not this one, this one. Copy it again, paste it here, not like this, like this. Come on. All right, and we need to import this. Press Control/. Sometimes it will not show auto import, but you need to import it manually first time. So import FC Google from, that is coming from the React icons, which is coming from FC package. Okay, now we can see that icon over there. Look at that, it's looking good. Now we need to make it bigger. So class name text for Excel, and I think that's enough. Yeah, 4XL is pretty much enough. Fine. Instead of rounded MB, we can say rounded full. Cool, that's looking good. And now here, what we can do is, I can give a text message like sign in with Gmail. Say the changes. That will be displayed over there. And we need some gap in between it. So gap 6, not 6, 3. Save the changes. So now we do have some gap in between it. Let's add some color. Text name, text LG, and font semi-bold. Save the changes, and text gray 500 or 600 something. Okay, so that's looking pretty much fine with me. Okay, then what we can do is we can bring one more button just like the same way. And what we can do is just copy and paste this division, copy and paste this division, and this is going to be your sign in with GitHub. Save the changes. Now we do have sign in with GitHub option, but instead of this icon, I'm going to bring the GitHub. I'm going to use, what is that? This one, font awesome GitHub. So we need to import that package, and let's try whether it is able to pick up the auto input. No. Import from React icons FA font awesome. All right, so now we do have that package over here. Look at that. So it's loaded successfully. Now I'll add one more thing for cursor over here and here. Cursor, it's going to be pointer. Okay, so that will give the pointer cursor. Look at that. So it's looking fine now. Now all I need to do is when I click this, I need to do some actions. All right, so to do that, first I need to configure the Firebase in our project. So let's go ahead and do that configuration in our project. Okay, so click here and let's create a new folder. Right click, new folder, and let's say config. Inside this configuration, I'm just going to bring the new folder. Right click, new file, firebase.config, config.js. Fine. So now I need to bring all the necessary configuration information inside our Firebase. So just give me a minute. Where it is? Okay, so let's go here. Let me open the Firebase config, go to the project settings, and let's scroll down. This is the configuration which we needed. So copy this and I'll bring it here, paste the changes. Okay, and we are not supposed to keep all these security keys and all those things inside the same place over here. We need to keep it in a separate environment variable, and we need to bring it here. But I'm just, for this simple example, I'm just going to keep it as it is. But try for a real-time project, don't keep it as it is. Okay, so here first what we need to do is we need to import the the Firebase initialize apps and everything. So import, let's say, from Firebase slash app. From the Firebase app, I need certain classes like get app. I need to get this method, and get apps. This is to get all the complete registered application in our Firebase, and then initialize the app. Okay, then come on. Then I need to import one more package, import. Okay, so if you're going to use the Firestore or storage and all those things, you can use the import that one also from Firebase slash storage. If you're going to use the Firebase storage also, you can use that Firebase storage over here, but in this case we are not going to use the Firebase storage, so let me remove it. And right after here, I'm just going to create an app, const app is equals, okay, because in case if the app is already created, you need to use that app. If the app is not created only, you need to create an app. Otherwise, every time when the project is loaded, it will initiate the app again and again and again. To avoid that, to get app, first I need to get the apps, get apps dot length. If the length is greater than 0, then get that app detail, get app. Otherwise, initialize the app with the Firebase, initialize the app with Firebase config. All right, so basically we are here trying to get the apps list. If the apps list is greater than 0, that means if an app is already created, of course the length will be 1. So then get that application information. Otherwise, create a new app, right? And now what I need to do is like I need to export this app so that we can use it inside whenever we need it. So I'm just going to say export the app. Okay, now we exported it. Now we need to get back to our login.jsx. Let me come to our output here. Okay, I'll go here and just give me a minute. Let me open where it is. All right, so now we are inside our login.app. Fine. So then what I need to do is click here, expand it, and I need to import as I need to get the authentication complete package. So const Firebase auth equals get auth. It's not loading, so what we need to do is we need to import it from, so import from Firebase slash get Firebase slash auth. So we need to get auth. Okay, this is the one which we needed, get auth package. Save the change. Oh, come on. Firebase auth is equals get auth and our app which is coming from Firebase config.js. Okay, fine. Now we do have our all the authentication informations in our Firebase auth. Now I need to choose the provider, which provider I'm going to use. So const Google provider is equals and new Google auth provider. That's a class we are going to use for the Gmail authentication provider. All right, and I'm just going to create one more variable, const navigate equals use navigate. Save the changes. Fine. All right, so now we do have the navigate and use navigate, which is going to help us, which is coming from your React router, which will help you to navigate from one page to another. All right, now we do have all the necessary informations, and when I click this division, I need to call an on click event. On click, I'm just going to say login with Gmail. I'm going to create that method, const login with Gmail equals an arrow6 function. Open it. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to get that user. We need to there are different methods to sign in with Google, you can use a redirect or you can use a pop-up. So let's see what we can use. Let me go back here and search for Firebase docs. If you search for Firebase docs, you can open the Firebase documentation and search for Firebase authentication. Search for Firebase authentication. That will provide you the different ways of authentication with a nice documentation. I'm just going to use the web. Inside the web, we are going to use the Google. Click the Google. We already added the providers and all those things. And if you scroll down, where is it? Google. Google auth provider, fine. And yeah, here you can see we can sign in with a pop-up, or we can use the sign in with redirect. Okay, we can, there are two different ways to here, pop-up method and redirect method. We can use the two different ways to sign in with your application, either sign in with pop-up or sign in with redirect. I'll show you the both methods. You can choose which is comfortable for you. All right, so let's go here. Where is that sign in with provider? Okay, here. Now we do already have our auth information, and here you can see sign in with pop. Inside here you need to supply your authentication and your provider information, and then it will gives you the result of that user. Okay, let's go here. Now here all I need to do is just what is that? Come on. Okay, so let's start with and this function is, let's change this function to an asynchronous function. So async. All right, and in here I'm just going to say await sign in with pop-up. Okay, first we'll use the sign in with pop-up. So sign in with pop-up, and this first it's asking you to provide the authentication method and the auth object and the provider, what provider you are going to use. I'm just going to say Firebase auth and the Google provider. Okay, once you supply this information, that will gives you a promise dot then, and that is going to be user credential, user cred, send it and open it. Okay, and now here, if there is a user credential, then, and first let's see console.log what object we are getting. Console.log user credential. Save the changes. What happened? Console.log user cred. Save the changes. All right, so let's check it out whether it is working fine or not. Let me open the console also. I'll bring it separately over here. Okay, now I can see the console separately. Click it, sign in. Now look at that, it's opening the pop-up. Okay, it's asking me to sign in. If I click this, there we go, and that's giving me the complete user credentials, that user details and the access token and everything. So what you need to do is you need to send this token to the backend, and you need to validate the user, the token is whether the token is active or inactive. So we need to do all those steps one by one. All right, so close this information, and to do that, what we need to do is we need to create here. So now all I have to do is to delete this. Come on, what happened? This keyboard shortcuts. And here I'm just going to say user credit. First I need to get that token separately. So get user credential. Okay, so if there is a user credential, it will comes inside. Then using the Firebase auth, on auth state change, if there is any changes on the state, okay, get the credential again. Then inside here I'm going to get that token. So from that credential I'm going to get the ID token. All right, and then that will returns that token, and we need to send that token. Like now you can see console.log token, save the changes. And now I'll go to the console control, oops, okay, here close the changes. And now if I click this, it will opens this. And if I click this again, and here we go. So this is the token which we really needed, and we need to pass this token to our backend, and that backend will isolate this token separately, and it will validate the user information, and it will gives back that user information to us. Okay, so this is what actually you need to do for the entire user token validations and all those things, and that's what we are going to do next. Okay, then so now we do have our token, so let's go ahead and create our backend now. So here let me minimize everything, and here I'm going to create a new folder called server, and inside this server I'm just going to say CLS. So now here let me stop it. Come on, what happened? Yeah, clear. And let me get into the server, cd server. Okay, so we are going to use the Firebase functions now. So Firebase init, get into the server folder and run the command Firebase init, and here you can find this option, functions configured cloud function. This option, let me expand it for the full screen. You can see this option, and spacebar to select that option, enter, and use the existing project, enter. And here you can find that you need to find that project. So let me say what project we are using, I'm not sure. Firebase .google console, google.com, go to console, and the project is 93EF4. So here 93EF4, yeah, this is the project I'm going to use. So the function directly will be created in your project folder with the sample code pre-configured. All right, so it's taking some time to load. Let's wait. And here we go. So I'm just going to use the JavaScript. Actually I pressed an enter without before showing it itself. It will ask you want to use JavaScript or TypeScript. Choose JavaScript, and here yes, and everything will be created. Do you want to install the npm now? Yes, so please install. That will download all the necessary node packages and everything which is needed for our function. So this might take a while, like a minute or more than a minute, so please wait until it gets done. It's loading. So we are going to, basically what we are going to do is we are going to create an express app with a backend API, and we are going to pass that token to our backend, and that will validate the token, and it will extract the user information and give it to us back. All right, so that's what we are going to do now, and it's successfully installed. And here inside once the Firebase function it's configured perfectly, inside the server a function folder will be created. Inside the functions you can find the index.js. This is that functions. And let's go back here and open this function. Why it's taking too long? I think my internet is a little bit slow. Okay, so now it's opened, and here I need to go to the project settings, and you can see the service accounts. So we need the service account to we need to extract the service account JSON key, this key. We need to get the security key, service account key, generate a new private key, generate it, and then you need to bring that to your Firebase. So bring it and put it inside your functions folder. It should be inside your functions folder. Where it is, that should be inside your functions folder. Here we go. And rename that file as service account key. Copy it, right click, and rename it to service account key. Okay, now let's close this one. All right, so let me close this everything, and here let's install the necessary packages. Of course we need, so npm install, because this is using npm, so we need to use npm install express course for cross origin. Okay, and then Firebase admin, everything will be already installed. If you go here, you can see Firebase admin and admin functions, everything is already installed. We need these two extra packages, so npm install express. All right, so there we go, it's installed, done. Okay, so then let's open up the index.js, and here first we do have that functions is already created, and next what I need to do is I need to add the admin. So const admin equals require Firebase admin. Okay, that's the thing which we needed. Then const service account is equals the account which we created, and require dot slash service account key dot json. Okay, that's the one. Say the changes, and then we need to create an app. So const express, we are using the express app to create for our backend API. So require express, fine, that's created. Then const for the cross origin. Of course it will throw it will not allow you to access the backend API in our front end. So that's the cross origin platform, it will throw an error. So to avoid that, we need to use this cross origin. So require false, say the changes. Now I'm going to create an app. So const app is equals express app. Okay, now using this app we can use that cross origin. So app dot use method, I'm going to say cos. Okay, use this cos, and I'm going to make the origin as true. So this will not avoid that, this will helps you to overcome that error. Okay, to avoid the cross origin platform. Then I'm going to make sure my complete app is going to use the JSON data. It should parse the JSON data, JSON express JSON, because we are going to send the JSON objects only, so it's need to accept the JSON objects. That's the reason we are using that one. And then I need to initialize the app. So admin dot initialize the app. We do downloaded that service account key, right? We need to initialize to enable all the admin privileges for this app. So here I'm just going to say credential is going to be admin dot credential dot cert certificate. That's the service account, we need to pass that service account inside. Then right after that, what we need to do is I need to give the database URL. Database URL is going to be process. No, we don't have any environment variable. So basically, if you want to give your database URL, you can give the database URL over here. But in this case, we are not going to use any database activities or nothing else. So we are just going to validate the token. So I'm just keeping as it is, as simple. All right. So then what we need to do is, okay, so I'm just going to change the route. Anything which is coming through the user route, I need to give it to. So let's see, const user route equals require. Okay, so I'm going to create a new folder inside this function. Right click, new folder, and I'm going to say as routes. Inside this, I'm just going to say new file as auth.js. Oops, spelling mistake. auth.js. All right, and let's keep it as it is. And here dot slash routes slash auth. Okay, what we are going to say here is that means whenever the request comes from app.use, if a request comes through slash API slash users, then navigate that API route to a different route, that is user route. Because in a real-time project you might have a different routes, so everything you can't keep complex in your index.js. That's the reason we are creating a separate route. If anything is coming through this endpoint, that will be rerouted to this auth.js. All right, so then I need to start the application. So exports dot app is equals functions dot https dot on request trigger this app. Okay, whenever a request comes through the function https, then trigger this application. All right, so let's run this Firebase application in a local mode. So run npm serve, npm run serve. If you go to the package.json over here, actual command to trigger this Firebase functions, and this is the command Firebase emulator start only function. So you don't need to run this, you just need to run npm run serve. So that will triggers that. Actually we need to move into functions folder. Now we are inside the functions folder, then npm run serve, enter. So now that Firebase emulator is up and running fine. Okay, it's running in a local host, it's not yet deployed in the it's showing Firebase error. Okay, because it's showing a Firebase error because we don't have inside the auth.js, we don't have any router or anything else. So we need to fix that issue. That's the reason it's showing that issue. So let me go back to the routes, and inside the routes, we need to go to the auth.js here. And now I need to create a router. So const router is equals require express dot router. Let's create an object for it. Then I'm just going to say const admin equals require Firebase admin. Say the changes because we need the admin privileges over here. Okay, then what we need to do is so let's create a endpoint. So here this is going to be Google token validation. All right, so here now what I need to do is, so router dot get, if it is the API is coming like this, like slash, if the API is coming like slash API slash users slash login validate something, if it is coming like this, so this will be triggered. Okay, so here the router name is going to be slash login validate. Okay, otherwise you can use Gmail login validate, something like a reasonable name over there. And I'm going to say this is an asynchronous, and async, I'm going to get the request and the response parameter. Okay, don't change the order of the parameter, request and response, and open the function. All right, so I'm just going to say response.send hi. For the time being, I'm just going to say the hi there. To run this much better, you need the Postman application. So I'm just going to open the Postman, because Postman is the best application to check all the backend API endpoints. Right, so let's go here, and right now middleware function, because we haven't exported it, so we need to export this route. So module dot exports equals router, say the changes. All right, so now there is no mistakes, functions, everything is loaded perfectly, and this is our local host. Copy this link, copy it, and go here, and let me create a new request, paste it, and /API/users/login validate. All right, so login validate. If I click this, so that should send a response back as a hi there. So everything is so far it's looking fine. Now what I need to do is all I have to go here, and I need to collect that token, and I need to validate it properly. Okay, so we need to collect that token and we need to validate it properly. To do that, let's see, first we will send the token from there, from front end to our backend. So let me minimize it, and let's run our client app. So yarn start, so that will start our client application. All right, so let's go back here, and not here, let me keep it in the side. So this might quite confusing because we are trying to create both the front end and back end, so try to understand here. All right, so now this is ready, let's keep it as it is, and inside the source folder let's create a new folder called API, and inside the API I'm going to create a new file called index.js. Okay, just a moment. And API folder, just a minute, give me a minute. API index. Okay, so for this we need to install a package called Axios. So let me create one more terminal and let me add that yarn add Axios. So this is to work with the API endpoints. This package is really necessary. We need this package to work with the API endpoints. So please install this package yarn add Axios. Add it, and it's taking quite a long time to install, and it's going to be done. And there we go. Oh, come on. Oh, okay. Oh god, one more time. Fine, so now the Axios package is successfully installed. So let's import that package. Import Axios from Axios. Then, and so we need to give the base URL, so const base URL. So because later this might be, once the server is deployed, the URL might be different. Currently it's running in a local host, so it doesn't mean that every time it's going to run in a local host. So node function, I'm just going to copy this. Why it's looking like this? Oh, my terminal is not responding, so let me stop it and let's create a new one. cd server, cd function, and npm run serve. So that will run the Firebase function one more time, and it will gives me this localhost URL. Copy it and paste that localhost URL over here. Enter. All right. So then first we are going to create a function to validate the token, which is going to pass the token to our backend. So I'm just going to say export const validate token equals, otherwise we can say validate Google token equals asynchronous method async, open the bracket, and I'm going to pass that token to this function, and I'm going to get the use the try and catch. If anything it's going to happen, I'm just going to say return null, return null. Okay, so now here what we need to do is, I'm just going to say await axios dot get, and I'm going to open the dynamic string, and I'm going to bring the base URL, After this, I'm going to say API slash users slash, and where is that router, control P, auth.js, login validate, copy it and paste it here. I will pass this to our that API. When I'm passing it, along with that, I'm going to pass the authorization token also. Okay, so we all know that our server is up and running now. So let me open the console, close it, and let me run it one more time. It's opening, and let me open this email account, and now it's trying to log in, and here we go. This is our token. So let me copy this token, completely, copy, and here I'm just going to say headers. Inside the headers, I'm going to say authorization. I'm going to use the authorization token, authorization, and I'm going to say bearer, paste that token. Okay, we do have that. So basically we need to secure the token also when we are passing it. So that's the reason we are adding the bearer, the term inside in between it. Okay, bearer, and this will send it to our backend point. So let's go back to our backend point, the auth.js, and that will comes over here. Whenever you're coming back to the server, I need to check that the token is there or not. So if not, request dot headers dot authorization. If there is no authorization token, then I'm just going to say return response dot status 500 dot send. I'm just going to send the message as an object, as an invalid token. Okay, invalid token, something like that. If there is a token, of course it will come. So const token is equals, so we are sending it as a string over here, bearer along with that token. So what I need to do is I need to break that term. So request dot headers dot authorization dot split sorry dot split, open it. Once you find out an empty space, that means there is a space between your bearer and your token. Once you find out that space between it, split it into two and access the first index. So 0th index will be that word bearer and the second index will be your token. So I'm just accessing that token, and then I'm just trying to send it back, response.send token, save changes. And now if you click OK, and here we go. So the term bearer is removed and it's sending back the token back. So now we do have our token in our backend. Okay, but it's not properly send it through our front end. We just manually send it through the postman. First let's validate it and let's verify whether everything is working fine or not. Then we'll move on to the, because our API is almost done and we need to send the token. Just we have to send the header authorization token over here. Okay, so let's, before that we will try to validate the token which we already sent it to the postman, and we'll validate it and we'll try to get the fetch the data back. Okay, so now I'm just going to use the try and catch. Try, if there is any error is happening, I'm just going to say send response.send. Instead of invalid token, I'm just going to say message, let's say dynamic string error colon dollar error. What exact error you got, send that error completely at the to the front end. Okay, now try, I'm just going to say await equals, use the admin privileges and use the auth class, admin.auth, open the class. I'm just going to say verify the ID token and pass the token into it. Once it's verified, it will send a response back. So I'm just going to say that promise over here, decoded That's the our decoded value. Okay, so then what we need to do is, if there is a decoded value, if there is decoded value, you need to send that value. Otherwise, you are not supposed to send that value. So I'm just going to say, if not decoded value, I'm just going to return the state as 500 one more time, and I'm going to say invalid, unauthorized access, something like that. If there is a decoded value, then else I'm just going to say return response dot status 200 dot JSON. I'm going to send it as a JSON data. Okay, and not JSON, send, because we need to send multiple objects. So I'm just going to say success as true. That's an object, customized object, and I'm going to send the data. The data is going to be the decoded value. Save the changes. If everything is working perfectly as it's supposed to be right now, it will send the user data, which will validate this token, and it will fetch that user logged in user information, and it will send it back. Look at that. Now we do have our data over here. This is the data, the username, the user picture, and authenticated time, and user ID, all the informations, which provider, and the UID, user ID, everything is validated and fetched by using that token. So this is how you need to validate the Firebase token. So now I need to send this to our front end. That means I need to access it. So now I'm sending a request to our backend from here. To send a request along, how we are sending it in the Postman, we send it with the authorization with this bearer token. Let's see how to send it from here. Now what I need to do is, right after here, come on, open it. Okay, so here all I have to do is to say, let me say headers. Okay, I need to send the headers colon, open an object, and we do have the authorization. Let me copy this name from here. This is the name you need to send. Copy the name, authorization object, and that is the term we need to send it as bearer space. It can be anything, you can use anything. This space is must. So after this, I'm just going to join the token, save the changes. Make sure that you leave an white space over here. The space is must, because that's how we are splitting the token and that word in our front end, and that will it will send a request, and we are sending back the response. So const response, we are getting that response. Okay, and then this is where it's getting finished, this get method over here. So right after here, I'm sending the return response.data object, because we are returning the data from here, and we are getting that data over here. All right, so now let's see back. Let's go to our login. Okay, so where it is, control P, login over here. So this is the place where we are getting the token, and all I need to do is to check the token over here. I need to revalidate the token right this place. Just a minute, let me open my login where it is, come on. Okay, here I need to use that API method validate Google token, copy it, send the token inside token, and that will return a promise dot, then you will get that data. And I'm just going to say console.log data, save the changes, control shift J. If everything is perfect, click login and click it. That will get and send the token. And what happened? We are sending the token, validate Google login API. From the API we did it, console.data. What exactly happening? It's quite confusing now. Why it's printing the token again? It is not supposed to print the token again. Let me keep only this. Close this. This is not necessary. This is not necessary. This is finished. Close it. Close the home. Close the app.js, index.css. Close everything. Keep only these necessary stuffs. Fine. So control, and then I'll keep this thing in the bottom. So it's nothing. Click. It's printing only the, actually why it's still printing the token over here, line number 19. We are validating that token now, but why it's constantly printing it? Let's restart it, rerun it. And here we go, we got that message back, success data, and look at that, we got our data. Actually I just refreshed it and it's working fine. Look at that. So this is what we needed really. Okay, but the problem is it's just like I want to sign in every single time. Okay, so somewhere I need to persist this data permanently. Like I can't save this data in our local storage. So that's the reason you need to have your context provider. Okay, so every time when a browser refreshed, I need to check is there any authentication changes or not. If not, I need to collect that token and I need to send it to backend. I need to fetch the detail and I need to push it back to our context provider. Okay, it might be quite a long process, but it's simple. Just try to follow me here. Okay, so first what we need to do is just go here, open up the folder, and inside the source folder create a new folder called context. Inside the context we are going to create a user redux reducer. Okay, we are going to provide a context, we are going to create a context provider. Right click, I'm going to create three different files: initial state.js, reducer.js, and I'm going to create one more file as state provider.js. Okay, so just a moment, let me open all those applications. Just give me a minute. Client, source, context. So the initial state, just we need to go to the initial state over here. In the initial state we need to export the initial state. Export initial state. Initial state is going to be export const. You need to use the const keyword over here. Export const initial state, and that's an object. And basically we are going to say user is going to be null. Say the changes. Initially the user is going to be null, but when it comes to the reducer part, it's going to be a very big one. So click the state provider. Let's create a context provider first, then we will move on to the reducer part. Okay, so here I'm going to use the use context hook to create the context provider. So import react from that is not going to be an object, so import react. Yeah, here we go. And I'm going to use some customized hook. So create context and use context, that's a hook. And I'm going to use the use reducer also. These three hooks we are going to use it inside our this state provider. Then what we need to do is on. All right, so here export const, we are just going to say state context equals create context. We are creating the context over here, create context. Then what we need to do is we need to export that export const. We are going to create an arrow6 function like a state provider equals an arrow6 function, open it, and I'm going to render. This is going to have a property reducer and initial state and the children. These are all the properties which belongs for this state provider. Inside here I'm just going to say state context dot provider, open it, and inside this we are going to render all the children properties which is coming through this state provider. Okay, and it's going to take the value, and that value is going to be use reducer, and this reducer is going to take the reducer parameter reducer, and it's going to take the initial state, these two. All right, so exactly what we are doing here, we are creating a context and we are passing the reducer and the initial state of our objects, and we are passing the components, and inside this state context provider it's just like a data layer. Okay, it's just like a data layer top of it, and we are passing all the components into the data layer. So all the component which is inside the data layer, they can access all the states and the properties which is inside the data layer. Okay, just like we are sharing it throughout our components. If you're not using this context provider, what you need to do, you just need to pass the state throughout your child components. So now I don't need to pass the state throughout the child components. I can simply access those objects whenever I needed, just from the data layer. Okay, so now I need to export this options. Export const use state value is the custom hook we are creating. Okay, and we are just going to say for that hook we are assigning this context, use context. That context is nothing but your state context. State context, save the changes. Now our state provider is ready. Let's go back to the reducer. Now inside the reducer, all we need to do is to first we need to export the action type. What kind of action is triggered? So export action type is equals let's say set underscore user colon set underscore user. This is the action, first action we are creating, and const reducer equals open, and it's taking the state, and along with that an action. What kind of action is triggered? These two objects are been passed to this method. Okay, and that is going to be an arrow6 method. This is an arrow6 function, and I'm just going to console log what kind of action is triggered. Console log action, because every time whenever the action is triggered, we need to know what kind of action is triggered so far. All right, so I'm just going to use the switch case over here. Switch, open it. I'm going to pass that action. The action what I'm receiving, I will send the type of that action. If the type of that action is equals to case action type, we do have the action type over here. Okay, if that equals to that particular set user, so this is coming from our front end. If that action type is equals to the set user, then I'm going to return enter. I'm going to return spelling wrong. Okay, return, I'm going to return the complete state, all the state, everything as it is except one. that the user object. Except the user state, I'm spreading all this state exactly as it is. Action dot user. Okay, through the action we will have the user object, we will collect it and we will update our user object over here. And we need to set the default state also. If anything default, we are simply going to return that state, no changes in it. Okay, and I need to export default reducer. Okay, so basically we'll call the reducer method and we'll get the action type. If that action type is equals to set user, we are spreading all the state exactly as it is except the user state, and we are updating that user state. Okay, so now what we need to do is we will have all the reducer, state provider, everything is done. So let me close it and let me go to my index.js over here. This I need to wrap this complete app. We need to wrap that complete app into the what is that? We need to wrap this complete app into a state provider which we created. So go to the index.js and let's write after here, press enter. Okay, I'm going to bring that state provider. Okay, it's showing it's not bringing the suggestions, so let's import it by ourselves. Import from context/state provider. So state provider. All right, so let's bring that state provider, close it, enter, and let's bring this app inside, save the changes. All right, so everything will be pre-rendered now, but currently it's not showing any component or anything because it is inside the state, our context right now, because this context is need to render the children. So we need to supply the initial state and the reducer, then only it will work. So initial state object is going to be initial state, which is going to come from your initial state. Import initial state, it's not coming, come on, from /context/initial state, and import the reducer also from ./context/reducer. Let's bring the initial state and let's bring the reduce reducer. Oh shit, that's a method. Reducer context./context from the reducer. All right, fine. Now here I'm just going to say initial state and reducer is going to be reducer. Save the changes, refresh it, and still the component is not loading. Why? Let's open the components. We do have the state provider, user is null, and it's rendering the app fine, but why we are not getting anything over here? We are not getting any issue also. Everything is fine. State provider, initial state, no mistake, everything is perfect. Export default reducer. No mistake in it. And the initial state, where is the initial state? Initial state is nothing, it's just empty user. And let's choose the state provider. import react create context react, okay, export const state context create context, fine. State provider, we are creating the state provider method, and we are sending the reducer initial state and the children. Why the component is not rendering? Oh, my bad. This is my bad, guys. Actually, this is not supposed to be a normal brackets. This is not supposed to be a normal functional bracket. It is supposed to be this like normal brackets, because then only it will render that component itself. That's the reason we are not getting the component over here. Save the changes, and now we do get the component. So this is not supposed to be curly, that is not supposed to be a curly brackets. It's supposed to be a normal brackets, okay? Because just like the brackets which you use to render a component, we are rendering all the child component which is coming through our app component. All right, so that's the reason it's previously it was not showing. So slash login. Now what I need to do is, whenever I'm clicking this, I need to dispatch that user information to our context provider. That's what we need to do. Okay, so let's go here, go to our login.jsx, and I'm going to bring that use state value. So here what I'm going to say is import import from dot slash use state value, which should come from the state provider dot double dot slash context slash state provider, and we are going to get our custom hook use state value, and I'm going to import it over here. Const open a state object, open an object. Inside that I'm going to get the user object, and I'm going to call a dispatch method equals use state hook. Save the changes. Okay, now we have the user object and a dispatch method to dispatch our object to our user. This can be any name, so dispatch is a proper name to do it. Now we do have our data over here, and I'm going to dispatch this data object. Type, what kind of type? Because we need to send the type to the state provider. Type is going to be action type dot set user. That's the type I'm sending. And user object I need to send, user is going to be the data. Save the changes. Now when I click login, click it, login, everything is done properly, and you can see it's triggering that set user object, set user, and it's showing user success. Inside that it's having the data object separately, and inside that we do have the information of the user information. Now it's stored inside our context provider. Now I can access this user object throughout the child components of our app whenever I need it, just by calling this user object. Inside this user there is one more data also. So what I can do is I can simply say data.data. So now I just need only that data.data. When I click this login, now login, click it, and now you can see inside the user we do have only that user data. We don't have that success message or anything else, because I don't need that. I just need only this. So I'm just accessing the user dot data. All right, so but the problem is, once it's logged in successfully, I need to push this user to the I need to push this to, so navigate this to home and replace the URL. It's going to be true. Save the changes. Now click login and login again, login, and we are here. But the problem is, if I refresh, see, we do have the data now. If I refresh, the entire user is became as a null. This is not supposed to happen, because even when you refresh, if there is a token, I need to validate that token, because the token is valid for 1 hour, minimum 1 hour. So we need to check that token. Okay, so what I need to do is the token, it have an authenticated time and it have a certain time limit. So let's go to the home.jsx. So here inside the home.jsx, I need to validate that token. So what I need to do is go to the components home.jsx, and inside there, just a moment, where it is, come on, where it is, just give me a minute. All right, so not in a home, we need to go to the app.js over here. Let's go to the app.js because this is the place where we are routing the user to different thing. So I'm going to use the use state method over here. Use state snippet. Oh, so not use state, use effect. Use effect, open it, and first parameter is going to be a function, and second one is the dependency injection. Okay, so here inside this use effect, I'm just going to say, I'm going to get, is there any changes in our Firebase authentication or not? So first I need to bring the Firebase authentication. So let's go here and let me bring this, copy this, and I'll paste it here, and let's import these two packages, get auth and the app which is coming from our Firebase app. And now inside this use effect method, what I need to do is Firebase auth dot on auth state changed. If there is any changes in my state, get the user credential, user cred, and pass it into this function. If there is an user cred, okay, if there is an user cred, I need to open this if condition. Then using that user cred, I'm just going to get that ID token. Okay, I'm going to get that ID token, and dot then I'm just going to get that token value, and I'm going to pass that token into here, and I'm going to, we already created a method validate Google token, validate that token, send that token again to that method, and that will return a promise. We will get the response, and we will return that response to our context provider. So dispatch, we need to bring that dispatch method where it is, login, copy our custom use state value, copy it, paste it here, and let's import this one to use state, and we need to dispatch that method. Dispatch, first I'm going to send the type, what kind of type it is. Type, it's going to be action type dot set user, and the user object is going to be user dot data. Okay, that's the object we are sending here, right? User dot data, yeah, user, not user, response dot data, yeah, response dot data. Now you can refresh it and open it. Here we go, we do have that user object, see? So every single time, even if it is like if that user object is not there, if the user credential is not there, like let's say, let's keep it in this way, if the user object is not there, you need to push the user to the login screen. If the user object is there, you need to bring the user directly to the home screen. Okay, so you don't need to push that user to the login screen again and again every time user is not supposed to log in again. Okay, that's why we are using this Firebase on auth state changed. So whenever the pages get refreshed, we will check that is there any changes in the authentication or not. If there is no changes, then we will keep it in that way itself, and we will validate that token, and we will push that token detail to our context provider. It doesn't matter how many times the user refresh the page, the token will get validated and the user detail will be added to our user context. Now I can access this user context in our home page or wherever I want. I can access it. So now let me go to the home screen. To do that, I'll copy this, copy it, go to the home screen, I'll bring it here, and let me import this one. Fine. save the changes, and I'll keep this to class name as window width the screen and hide the screen and flex everything in the center item center. Okay, justify center, I justify everything in the center. And this, instead of this, I'm just going to bring let me view word wrap. Okay, so here I'm going to create a division. Class name is going to be width 90, width 60 or something, 240 pixels, and pg gray 200, rounded MD, padding 4, flex item center, justify center. And here I'm just going to bring an image tag, and this image tag is going to be user dot. Inside the user object I do have this picture, so I'll copy this picture and I'll paste it over here. Save the changes, refresh it. We are getting an error, so user saved it. Why actually this is I don't know why we are getting this error constantly, but this you can avoid this error because see, if this is an image URL, nothing but if you right click here, inspect elements, and if you can open the division, inside the division you can have that image URL. Copy this image URL and paste it. You can find it out that image is working fine. See, you are getting that image, but it's not loading because the referrer policy. So referrer image no referrer policy. If you search for no referrer policy, you search for that and click this first link, and you can find this one. Referrer policy is equals no referrer. Copy this line. So if you use this line over here, paste it, or capital, or this, and P should be capital, otherwise it will throw an error. Why it's happening today like this? P, it should be capital. Save the changes. Now it will shows that error because you need to make sure that referrer policy should be a no referrer, then only the Gmail picture will load properly. Otherwise sometimes it will not get loaded properly. Okay, I'm getting constantly this error a lot of times, so if I'll search about it and I'll find this solution, and it's working perfectly for me, and of course it will work perfectly for you too. Okay, so let's add the class name is equals let's say I'm just going to keep this width as 24, height as 24, and rounded MD and shadow MD. Save the changes. It looks like that, and let me change this to 50. All right, so that's fine. All right, so then I'll add a little bit shadow for that too, shadow MD. Save the changes like this, and I'll bring a name beneath it, so paragraph. If the user object is there, because initially it will be not loaded, it will be null. If the user object is there, then bring the name. What is the, go to the components and go to the state provider, context provider, expanded user object, user, and what is this, name here, name only. Okay, save the changes, so that will display that name, and let it bring it in the column direction, flex column, and gap between each and everything, gap should be there, so gap is going to be 6 like this. And I'm going to make this paragraph a little bit bigger. Class name, text, Excel, font, semi-bold. Save the changes like that. So now we do have the that option, like what is that we do have that image, and we do have that name over here. It doesn't matter how many times you refresh, If you refresh it, it will take some time to load, but you need to use that loader and all those things. So because it's that instance, it's taking certain time to go back and collect the detail and validate and everything. So in that meanwhile, you need to load the loader, okay, your customized loader in between it. Okay, so all you have now, everything is working perfectly. Now all I have to do is to add one more option over here as a sign out. So I'm just going to add a button over here called sign out. Okay, I'm going to say class name as px4 py2 border none, outline none, rounded MD, shadow MD, and then BG green 400. Save the changes like this. Okay, I'm just going to keep that button over there for sign out, cursor pointer, save the changes. And this I'm going to add on click even. I'm going to say log out user, and I'm going to create a function over here, const log out user, const log out user equals a callback function, open it. Okay, so now what we need to do is, just a moment, where it is. Okay, so I need to get the Firebase authentication again. So copy this get auth and go here and paste it right over here and get the app details, get auth, and get the app information. And here I'm just going to say Firebase auth dot sign out. On sign out, if it is success, then okay, I'm going to call a callback function. I'm going to say dispatch. We need to make the user object as a null. Okay, we need to make the user object null. So dispatch type is going to be action type dot set user, and the user object is going to be null again. Once this is done, I need to push the user to a different page. So const navigate equals use navigate, save the changes, and then navigate equals slash login, and replace the URL be true. All right, so let's check it out. So click this. Now here we go, we are in the login screen, and if you expand the value and look at that, you have the null object. Okay, so because the user is logged out, and if you head back to the home screen again, okay, it's showing us null because there is no user in it. That's the reason it's showing. If there is no user, we need to push the user to the what? You need to push the user to the login screen itself. So what I need to do, go to the app.js, and in the user object, I'm just checking initially if not user, then navigate the, you need to get the use navigate method over here, const navigate equals use navigate, save the changes, and right after here navigate that user to the login screen itself, then replace, okay, that's an object, replace is equals true, save the changes. Now even if you try to go to the home screen without logging in, that will take the user directly to the login screen. See, I'll delete this, and if I press enter, it will go to the home screen and it will be immediately coming back to the login screen itself because there is no user. Okay, if I click login, that will open this pop-up method and it will take the user and that will take the user to the login screen. And once if I refresh it now, what? It's not supposed to happen, right? We do have the user object over here. This is supposed to happen only if there is no user. Otherwise, what we can do is Control X over here, else save changes. We'll try this one now. Let's see. Look at that. Now if you refresh, it will work. Okay, if you sign out, it will go there, and if you try to go there, it will not work. So if you instantly, it's happening that it's loading that home screen and it's going to the login. That you can see that flickering changes. That you can avoid by using the loading state and all those things, or create a one more use effect and check this separately. That will not happen. All right. So now let's move to the sign in with GitHub option. Okay. So let's try to sign in with the GitHub. Just a minute. Where is my login? Come on, this login is components, login.js. Okay, so let's log in with GitHub now, where it is. So right after, go to the login screen now, and for this I'm just going to create on click, I'm going to say login with GitHub, and I'm going to create that method right after here, const login. Why my escape key is not working? I don't know. Login with GitHub equals, open it. So here I'm just going to use the same thing, await. So this time, instead of using sign in with pop-up, we'll use sign in with redirect. So sign in with redirect. Okay, I'm going to say Firebase auth, and I need to, this time, instead of supplying the Google provider, we are going to use GitHub provider. Const git provider equals new GitHub auth provider. Save the changes. All right, so that will throw an error, no issue, we haven't supplied it here. So git provider, okay, and that will gives you the result dot, then open it, and that will gives you the data. Get that data, and if you want to console log it, let's console.log it, console.log that result, data. Save the changes. Okay, and this function should be an asynchronous function, then only you can use the await keyword. Okay, so change it to asynchronous function. And now what I need to do is, okay, if I click sign in over here, that is redirecting to the another page, and it's asking me to authorize with my application or not. Okay, once I click authorize, I'll go to the console. So far, clear it, authorize it, and it's coming back, and I can't see that information. Okay, it's setting that user information. Oh, Firebase auth. See, we got that user information, and that user effect is refreshed, and it's loaded, and you can see that it's getting the information from the get auth information. So we have our user information over here, all the name and everything. It's just it fetched that information from the GitHub. Okay, but what I need to do is I need to check one more time. I need to validate the token, because it's not validating the token. So For Firebase, that one we validated by sending to our backend, we validated it. For GitHub, you need to use it in a different way. This is the GitHub path provider, and if you scroll down, they will see you need to get that credential access token, you need to validate it, then you need to get that result user information. Okay, so that's what we are going to do now here. Once you got the data, what I need to do is I need to get that credential const cred equals credentials using GitHub auth provider. I'm going to say credential from result. I'm going to get that. I'm going to pass that data. Okay, and that will provide me the token. Const token equals cred dot credential cred dot access token. Using that access token, okay, I'm going to dispatch that user information. Dispatch the user information. Dispatch user. Dispatch. The type is going to be action type dot set user. All right, then I'm going to say user colon cred dot user. Okay, you will get that cred dot user. Okay, so in case if you need to validate this access token in your backend for your GitHub also, you can pass this token to your backend and you can validate from there and you can return back the data. Otherwise, you can directly use this result which is already validated and provided by your GitHub auth provider itself. Okay, I'm just going to use this, and once it's done, I'm going to navigate the user to the home screen and I'm going to replace it's going to be true. All right, and I'm going to say dot catch if cas is there any error is happening during this. I'm just going to console.log that error. Okay, so let's hit the sign in. It's going to the another page and it is loading it. Instead of sign in with redirect, I can say sign in with pop-up. So click sign in with pop-up. It's opened this pop-up window and it's coming over here, and the problem is it's showing user as an undefined. Why? Console.log cred. Let's see, cred dot user. Save the changes, sign out, refresh it, click here. We need to see that user object. Here we go, it's working. See, we have that user, and if you expand this Firebase, the sign-in provider is going to be your GitHub provider. Look at that, it's successfully working. Okay, so if I sign it out, it will goes out, close it. If I click sign in with Gmail, click it, and that is loaded properly. And if you expand the detail and if you verifies it, Firebase, the sign in is google.com because we used the Gmail. And let's try it by using now sign in with GitHub, and let's open it again, and let's check Firebase, and this time it's using the github.com. If you refresh it, still it's working perfectly. It's authenticating and it's validating and it's working perfectly. Okay, so this is how you need to use your Firebase authentication, guys. You need to this is the proper way to use your Gmail and as well as your GitHub authentication. I hope you enjoyed this session. If you're having any question, please comment it below. I will happy to reply you back. All right, I'll see you all in the next video.